Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at this big storm which is going to be impacting areas into the central and eastern United States with quite a bit of severe weather, rain, and a bit of snow on the northern side of the system. We're going to be going over that and discussing that. We have some pretty active severe weather that looks to take place, potentially a moderate risk of severe weather coming out of this in Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and then maybe even into Missouri and Arkansas. So we'll be talking about that in today's video as well. We're going to be going over my preliminary snowfall and rainfall forecast for this storm. This storm is happening between the 27th and the 31st. The 27th would be Friday, and the 31st would be Tuesday of next week. So it is quite a bit out. It's not too far out that we can't predict. We can't even start really trusting the models, but it is quite a bit out. So definitely we have to take everything that we see with a grain of salt, and that's why I'm calling it my preliminary snowfall and rainfall outlook. There really is, it's a very quiet weather week in terms of storms and storm systems coming through. So there's really, we have to look forward quite a bit to get any sort of storm systems to roll through. Now, here's your National Weather Service page currently. Winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings scattered throughout the Rockies. That's for some higher elevation regions. Red flag warnings there for areas into the south central United States for Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and then through Colorado and New Mexico there. We also have some air quality alerts through areas into the Great Lakes and Ozarks as well there for the deep south. And we have a couple winter weather advisories there for the UP of Michigan. But other than that, it is quite a quiet National Weather Service page and therefore quite a quiet weather day. Now, here is what the European model is showing in terms of precipitation. Now, this is really going to be starting again this Friday. You start to see some isolated snow showers throughout the Rockies, maybe even rolling through the plains. You're going to get this lift of moisture. By this time, you already have a surface low pressure system that's over Colorado and Kansas, so that's already in place. You don't see a lot of precipitation, organized precipitation just yet, but you will start to see that, and it's going to be a very, very tightly wound up system. It's pulling in all that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. You also have some very unstable air throughout this column of the atmosphere, so you are going to get quite a bit of severe weather. You will have CAPE indices of about 2,500 to even 4,000 joules per kilogram, and that measures your energy, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. But you'll have very high amounts of energy in the atmosphere. You have some very unstable air, so that's really going to help with some severe weather. And the snow side of this, it's really going to be confined to areas into northeastern Minnesota, the UP of Michigan, maybe northern Wisconsin, and then there for the extreme northern parts of New England and the Northeast. Now, here as we go through Friday morning, you start to see a little bit of organized precipitation, most of it in the form of rain as you got out into the mountainous terrain of Colorado, Wyoming, and then getting even into the plains through Nebraska and eastern Colorado. You're starting to see some moderate to heavy snowfall, and that'll be probably some wet snowflakes. It's not going to be too crazy cold, so actually I think your snow accumulations until you get up very far to the north are going to be quite low because you have that warm air. Usually when you get warm air, your snowfall ratios tend to be lower, so you actually get less snow for your liquid equivalent, which means that you're going to actually get less snow out of this system. Now let's say if this system were to happen in January or February, so take that into account, and I took that into account into my snowfall forecast at the end of the video. Now you see the system currently would be set up over around central Kansas by this point. You see this large arm of rain, and that's pretty heavy rain, moderate to heavy rainfall, and that'll be kind of drenching these areas, especially throughout the Ohio Valley. Especially that area is going to see quite a bit of rain. This would be by Saturday morning, and now getting to Saturday night, you're starting to see that heavy snow move through areas like Duluth, Minnesota, and then through northernmost parts of Wisconsin, and kind of skimming the UP of Michigan, and then as we get into Sunday morning, starts to really ramp up in terms of snowfall. You have a very wide area of rainfall and isolated thunderstorms, especially as you get down through Mississippi, Alabama, even into Louisiana, and then through Tennessee, Kentucky, and then maybe there into in Ohio and Indiana, seeing some potential severe weather as we get through Sunday morning, and then as we get through into Monday morning, you're starting to see more snowfall, rainfall move through the Northeast by that point, and then it it kind of wraps up and you just see some lingering snow showers out of that. So here's what your CAPE looks like. This is convective available potential energy. This is measuring how much energy you have in the atmosphere, and usually you want above about 500 to 1,000 joules per kilogram, which would be kind of this shade of blue here. Anywhere above this shading of blue, that's where you really have a good shot, and you're actually going to see some areas have between 2,000 and 4,000 joules per kilogram of energy, and that's really, really high for this time of year, especially as you get late March. You can get some severe weather events, but this would usually be happening right around April, May timeframe. So late March, and you're seeing these very high CAPE values. That's very indicative of some very, very severe weather that's going to be going on. Now, this would be by your Thursday and Friday morning, or this would be by Friday morning. You see that very dark red, that's around 4,000 joules per kilogram. And that's over Oklahoma, Texas, and even as you get into the oranges, that's between 2,500 and 3,500 joules per kilogram. That's very, very high. So if you do live anywhere where you're in that yellow, that orange, that red, really keep your eye on it. And even if you're in this turquoise, you should really be keeping your eye on this, because definitely the models can still change. You still have about 72 to about 84 hours for this to change. So definitely a lot can still happen, but it's looking very, very impressive. And even we'll show you the Storm Prediction Center in just a bit. They are also showing quite a bit of severe weather. Now, it moves north into Kansas and into southern Missouri. And then as we continue this would be by Friday morning. You're probably getting some good thunderstorms out of this. And then you start to see a line of very high CAPE values of about 2,000 to 2,500, maybe even 3,000 in there. And then as we continue this, starts to get a little bit more widespread, but also weakens in terms of the amount of energy. But you do see that really high CAPE values are getting fairly far to the north for areas into early spring. So definitely it's going to be quite an interesting storm system. Your low pressure system by this point would be somewhere over around southern Minnesota, and so that's why it's bringing all that moisture to the north. Now let's look at your Storm Prediction Center real quick, and then we'll show you your rainfall and snowfall accumulations out of this event according to the European model, and then we'll show you my personal forecast at the end of the video. So here is your day 3 severe thunderstorm outlook, and this would be for Friday, and you're seeing a slight risk, and this is 3 days out, so definitely you have the ability to push this up to an enhanced risk or even a moderate risk there, and that's for Kansas, Missouri, and into Oklahoma. And probabilistic forecast of any severe weather types you're seeing over Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas through into Oklahoma and Kansas. You're seeing about 5% chance of severe weather and 15% chance there for Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Now here is your day 4 severe weather outlook, and they only do it between a 15% and 30% chance, and a 15% chance is equivalent to a slight risk, and they're doing that 4 days out. This would be for Saturday, so usually these ones end up at least getting ranked up to a enhanced risk, and sometimes they even get up to a moderate, or very rarely they get up to a high risk. That's when you really know there's going to be a very big severe weather day, when they put out that high risk. But you already have a slight risk in place. We saw those very high CAPE values. This could potentially ramp up as well there with your day 3 severe weather outlook. Still, you have a lot of time for this to ramp up to maybe even an enhanced risk of severe weather. So we'll have to see, and we'll keep our eye on that closely. Now, here's your total snowfall accumulation, and out here in the Rockies, most of this west of about Wyoming and Utah, that's out of another system. That's not associated with this. But as you go out here, this is really associated with this system. At least most of it is. And so you're seeing quite a good amount of snowfall, as well as you get out into the plains. You're seeing about 2 to 6 inches potentially of snowfall there. And then you're seeing this very intense area and very isolated area over northern and eastern Minnesota, as well as northwestern Wisconsin, where you're seeing up to about a foot of snowfall. We'll have to keep our eye on that. You see, I kind of toned down these numbers because I'm not quite sure on how this is going to play out, and maybe even by tomorrow we don't have this area seeing any snowfall, or it actually gets ramped up, or we see less snowfall in that area, and vice versa for areas into the northeast. So that's definitely something that can still happen, and we still have to take that into account. So my snowfall and rainfall forecasts are going to be a little bit on the lower side of things. Now here's your rainfall outlook from the European model, and you're saying anywhere in the yellows, that's about an inch of rain, and you see that for quite a bit of areas. Ignore this down here. This is including another system that is going to bring quite a bit of rainfall come early next week, and we'll talk about that when we get closer to that event. Now, here's your snowfall and rainfall forecast. Again, this is going to be going from the 27th through the 31st of March. Now, that would be from this Friday to, again, next Tuesday. Now, here we have this your first layer mountain snow there, and that's for much of the areas into Colorado, northwestern New Mexico, northeastern Arizona, much of Utah, western Wyoming, southern parts of Montana, much of Idaho, and then through into areas a little bit there of Nevada and Oregon, seeing some mountain snowfall there. Now, under 1 inch to 3 inches here, so basically any snowfall to 3 inches, and that's going to be expected over northern Colorado through Wyoming, maybe there into Nebraska, South Dakota, and then through southern Minnesota, and then into northern Wisconsin and into the UP of Michigan, as well there for northern New York, and then through northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and a lot of Maine. They're saying under 1 inch to 3 inches of rainfall there. 3 to 6 inches of snowfall there, and that would be for parts into Minnesota, and then through areas into Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and also there for eastern Maine. And again, I think I will ramp these numbers up, but we still are quite a bit out, so we'll still have to see them. Now, under 1 inch to 1 inch here, and that would be for a lot of these areas east of this low pressure system, and that would basically be from anywhere from the Rockies eastward, seeing under 1 inch of rainfall or even a little bit more. And then we have a large swath there of 1 to 2 inches of rain there, and that would be for areas from Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, through southern Wisconsin, all of the lower peninsula of Michigan, through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, through Kentucky, Virginia, and then all the way through the mid-Atlantic and into areas into the northeast, seeing 1 to 2 inches of rainfall out of this system. Now, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications in your next video when I do upload. Anyways, guys, that was Eli with Organo. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.